Think big, think positive, never show any sign of weakness. Always go for the throat. Buy low, sell high. Fear, that's the other guy's problem. Nothing you have ever witnessed will prepare you for the absolute carnage you're about to witness. It's Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Want to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Master the Art of Connecting and professional speaker Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on the planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have the daughter of a career Air Force officer and has been instilled with leadership lessons from day one. She has learned from the colonel. These lessons have helped make her make smart decisions and overcome adversity with humility and a sense of humor. She has navigated and excelled at just about every aspect of corporate America in her widespread career and has presented to organizations in over 7 countries, helping leaders and top performers improve the effectiveness of their communication and reduce unnecessary conflict. Thrive Loud listeners, we're going to put on our leadership hat today from a different perspective as I bring you the Colonel's daughter, Lauren Schieffer. Lauren, how are you today?
I am Ducky. I'm fabulous.
I love that expression, Ducky. Okay, so listeners get the impression, obviously, of who you are, and I want to rewind the clock a little. We don't have to go all the way to the womb, but I want to go early on because you've obviously had a very interesting life, and as somebody who's grown up in a military family, maybe bring us up to speed as to some of the things you experienced early on, and we'll start with that, and then we'll dive into what you do now.
Well, people often ask me the casual question, where are you from? I grew up in the Air Force. I'm not from anywhere. We moved every 18 months to 3 years.
Oh my goodness.
And that's what that does. It's twofold. It solidifies the importance of the core family unit. Father, mother, children. It also gives you the opportunity to, I built the skill of being able to make friends anywhere I go.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have time to muck around. I could be gone in 18 months. So if I needed to have friends, I needed to have them now. My sister manifested the other way. She just decided that she didn't need friends. Mm-hmm. But I developed that skill. The colonel was a sizable man, 6'6.5" and 285 pounds on his very leanest day.
Wow.
He was an all-around handyman, Mr. Fix-It, truly the MacGyver of his day. He was always working on something, the house, the cars, the neighbors' cars, and I would help him. Helping him normally involved sitting with him to keep him company and handing him a tool every now and then. And as I sat with him, usually cross-legged on the driveway, he would talk to me about life. And he would stop in the middle of a sentence and he would say, pay attention, kid. This right here, this is a road sign in your life. You have to decide if you're going to follow it or not. It wasn't until after he passed that I realized that the road signs were life lessons that he knew would be crucial to my health and my happiness and my positive impact on the world. Today, I have called those road signs kernels of wisdom.
Nice.
And that's where the kernels of wisdom come from.
So I want to dive in here just a little bit here because I wanted to get this take. This could go either way. And you mentioned, obviously, you took on one aspect as you were dealing with all the friends you had to make, and your sister took a different approach. You could have taken a different approach as it related to how these lessons could impact you. Could have led to rebelling or couldn't do this. Was there a moment of like, yeah, that's just dad talking, or, or when was there like a real, like, oh my God, this guy actually really has provided me with all the key things that I know I could help others with. I'd love to hear that from you.
There certainly was a measure of, yeah, Dad. Okay. Probably more in my youth. Once I moved away from home and started at entry level in corporate America, that's when I found myself calling Dad and saying, this is going on. One of the stories that I tell from stage is about a manager who invited me into his office to share with me everything that I do that irritates him. He'd made a list. There were 7 legal pages of things that I do that irritate him. Now, in his defense, I was younger than I am today. And I was cocky than I am today. That probably comes from being a colonel's daughter.
Yeah.
I left that day feeling defeated and defiant simultaneously. And I did what any good colonel's daughter would do. I called Daddy to whine. And the colonel said, well, it sounds to me, kid, like the two of you aren't communicating. I said, yes, Dad, but how do I get him to communicate with me? He said, no, you've got this backward. You need to communicate with him. And so it was that every time I needed something or every time I needed to whine at that point in my life, I picked up the phone and called my dad. And then it really started clicking. I don't know if it really all landed like concrete in my lap, the value of what my father had tried to instill in me, until I was writing his eulogy.
Mm. How many years ago did he pass? How long ago was that?
He passed on the 30th of December, 2006.
Okay.
So do the math, because for me, math is hard and I don't want to take my shoes off. But that was the day we lost him. And my first book, which I don't promote as heavily as I do my Kernels of Wisdom series, but my first book was based on his eulogy. It's called Road Signs on the High Road of Life. Mm. And that one was based on his eulogy. That's what started it all. So,
by the way, I'm always fascinated. I did not come from a military family, and I hear about that unsettlingness and moving also. But I also, which I'm grateful that I wasn't in all the moving pieces, because that would be challenging. But I'm also a little envious at times from having access to people who were really excellent leaders based on how they were trained, on their daily business, on their way of being, the ones who really excelled and did that. And I've seen, to have the access at your fingertips is a wonderful thing. Nothing against my own family or anything, but I always see that. Now, this was actually one question before I wanted to jump into the business side. Was there ever a thought of you wanting to go into the military?
No.
Okay.
And I sometimes I feel guilty about that. My personality, my inherent natural personality, would not do well in the military.
Got it.
I am too emotional. When I was a child, I was a bit of a drama queen. I know I've grown out of that. But realistically, I, as a core human being, I'm not cut out to be military. I grew up support structure. I'm a really good support structure to anything, anyone, any friend, any organization. I've got your back person, but I'm just too emotional at my core.
Mm. So as it relates to
that's the first time I've actually thought about why I didn't go into the military.
We always tap into great things here on Thrive Loud. You should know this, Lauren, because we're always trying to kind of decode a little bit about what makes incredible, thriving individuals thrive. And this is where this conversation goes. And thank you for sharing that. And actually, where I was going with this, you talked about this independence, this cockiness component to it, but by the way, which are incredible assets to a lot of leaders. And this is actually what I wanted to ask you, because this is something you do inherently, and that is assessing how leaders are leading. Because you're going to come into a situation, obviously you had the communication component that you recognized at that one time when you were in corporate America working. But in the work that you see today, leadership and even the way leaders are being trained and prepared has taken an absolute 180 over the last few years. One, do you agree with that? And do you also recognize that this is a radar that's probably one of your superpowers?
I will tell you that I just, since we're being honest and authentic, I hate the term superpower. What is your superpower? I'm a human being. I don't have superpowers. I have skills. I have skills that everyone has skills that they come about naturally, and skills that we choose to develop. And that is a skill that has developed in me as I have built my own leadership skills. And earlier you were talking about the opportunity to learn from various people. And I have had the privilege to sit at the feet of some truly significant leaders, including my father, including the colonel. But because of the role that my father played in the Air Force, I had the privilege of knowing John McCain. I had the privilege of knowing Colin Powell. And of course, I have learned from the great John C. Maxwell and the late Mary Kay Ash, all of those incredibly significant leaders. And in learning that, yes, it has given me radar. See, I don't like superpower, but I do like radar. Yeah, I believe that I have that. And, you had said that independence and cockiness are assets. They absolutely can be when they are tempered with the right intention, from the right direction.
I love that. You've also bled into something here, which is something our listeners need to hear. You highlighted some of the great leaders that you've had access to as significant leaders. Can you share with our listeners here at Thrive Loud your definition and difference between successful leaders or success and significance? Because that seems to be a very significant difference in a lot of the ways that you communicate and help others to do the same.
It absolutely is. Success is inwardly focused. Success is about titles and compensation packages, how much we're earning, achievements and accolades. It's about parking spots and stature in society, not physical stature. Success is about me. Significance, on the other hand, is outwardly focused. Significance is about we. Significance has nothing whatsoever to do with the title you hold or how much money you make. Significance is about how many lives you touch and the manner in which you choose to impact them, because how we impact others is a choice. It's a choice every day. And because just about everything that I teach and believe goes back to something my father said. The colonel always said, anyone can be successful, kiddo. Making money, losing it all, making it back again. Anyone can do that. Choose to be significant.
It's an interesting take, Lauren. And it's funny because this is going to sound funny. Maybe I've been using the wrong vocabulary. To me, success is not how much money you've made, or the titles and all of that. To me, success is actually making, maybe I bleed these two together. Success is making incredible connections that help you thrive throughout your life. And as I'm hearing you describe this, because I also think that other people will determine other people's success. So like, you'll look at someone and say, oh, that person is successful. My children are successful in certain ways. But I guess in your point, that how success has been measured most commonly ends up being the way that you look at it. And I guess significance is a more powerful term, because it isn't just about what they themselves have achieved personally, but it's also what they've helped others to achieve as well. So I think that's a great clarification and definition that I will start to use more in my own vocabulary, because I think that's a really interesting bifurcation of two very common and oftenly overused terms. That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I like that.
And there is truth in what you say, that other people often determine things. I think ultimately other people will determine how significant you have been. But the choice to focus on significance, to focus outside of self every day, to focus on how we're impacting others, is the first step to significance. And that's the only thing we have control of. I'm in the midst of writing a brand new keynote right now that launched out of a conversation that I had with my business mentor about the question of certainty. And I told him, I said, I struggle with certainty. I really do, because those things that were the foundation of what I stood on growing up, that were certain to me, that created the foundation of who I believe I am as a human being. Things like how the standard of how we treat each other as human beings, who we are as Americans, coming together in crisis or not recently. Those foundations have all been really rocked and crumbled in the last 6 or so years. And so the certainty that I stood on doesn't exist anymore. So I've had to come to a realization that the only certainty I have is who I choose to be as a human being, and what I choose to do in any given situation, and making a decision, making significant decisions, rather than decisions that lead to significance rather than lead to success, is the only foundation now that I can stand on.
Lauren,
there's a keynote coming out of that.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it too. And
I don't know what the title is yet. I don't know what the title is yet. We have to come up with a sexy, sticky title, and I don't have it yet. But that's, but authentically, that's where I'm at right now. Yeah. It's the only thing I can stand on.
That might be it. The only thing I could stand on could be what it is. Here's the interesting challenge that I know that you see with the leaders that you work with today. What is the most common, I guess, misdirection or area that maybe that you see that they're focused on, or they're trying to drive towards, that is not necessarily the best intention? I want to find out is there a lot of the success focused with leaders versus the significance focused? Is that one of the more common areas that you find where leaders are facing challenges?
Yes, there are two directions. First off, for emerging leaders, when people come into leadership initially, they usually get the promotion because they have excelled as an individual contributor. They were a great coder. They were a great accountant. They were a dynamite salesperson. Those individual skills that got them the promotion are not the skills that they need to lead people. So the first challenge that we have is to get them out of the mindset of being an individual contributor and into the mindset of growing individual contributors.
Perfect.
You're always in the mindset of help others grow first. That goes a long way. That's the first thing. And the second is focusing on too much on deliverables. And I know deliverables are important. Productivity, profitability, market share, customer satisfaction. Sometimes those end up taking precedence over helping others grow first. I have something called the 9 Essentials of Significant Leadership. And it's a 40,000 foot view of what significant leaders should focus on. And I've discovered that if you put your focus on the 9 essentials at all times, which are all directed at helping others grow first, the day-to-day deliverables will take care of themselves. And furthermore, as we face what is called the Great Resignation, attrition will go down, engagement will go up. If leaders focus rather than on the deliverables, focus on helping their team grow first.
Great.
Those are the two areas that I usually have to address first.
Getting people to turn the I'm going to use a military term here. I know it was more in the Air Force you were dealing with, but getting people to turn the tide. Have there been situations when you've walked into organizations, Lauren, and been like, they're not getting it. They're too focused on the I, not on the we. They're not in the direction. And to someone who, in this case, can take any challenge and want to face it, have you walked away from those or recognized that that's not the organization I can work with? I ask this because sometimes to a detriment of great leaders who help leaders become better leaders, that sometimes we try to fight through it and battle it, but sometimes it's a lost cause. I'd love to hear your take on it. Has that happened? And if so, how did you handle it?
Yeah, it has happened. And yes, I have walked away. I actually started working, I was brought in to work with supervisors. And specifically, I was hired to improve accountability. And then I realized that the supervisors were not holding themselves or their teams accountable because the management level was not holding themselves or their team accountable. So I rewrote the proposal for the second year that I was in with the organization to work with the management level. And 6 months into that, I realized that it was at an executive level. So I went to the board one more time and I said, open the door to your C-suite for me. And I worked with the C-suite for another 6 months. And I came to the conclusion, and I haven't given a name or an industry, so
fair enough.
I could say this. I came to the conclusion that I could kill myself trying, and they would step on or over my dead body to maintain status quo.
Wow.
And they were very comfortable with my coming in once a month to work with them so that they could say that they were trying and then not make any changes. And it is not in my character to show up just to collect a paycheck.
Yep.
So I resigned from the contract and walked away from it.
Wow. And I too often I love when people do that, because it's also hopefully a wake up call for those organizations that recognize that the status quo isn't going to hold whether they see it or not. I want to dig a little deeper here, and I love asking guests this question. Lauren, this should be fascinating. We all have days when we're kicking on all cylinders and we're totally thriving. But there are days when we're not doing that and we're a little off our game. Lauren Schieffer, when you have trouble thriving, what practice do you seek, or maybe which individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
There's not one thing. Let me go back to a moment. We can take it back to March of 2020, when the meetings industry shut down completely. The first thing that I did was give myself time to process emotion. I call it curling up in a corner and sucking my thumb. I did that for a couple of days. And I processed anger and fear and shame and all of those negative things. And then honestly and genuinely, the first place that I go always is my dad still. And the Colonel used to say, use what you've got, kid, and just show up.
Yeah.
That simple sentence is profound in its simplicity. What do I have? Work the problem, kid, work the problem. Use what you've got and just show up. So what could I do at that point? I could finish my third book. No one had to hire me to do that. I could just do it. So I finished my third book and I got it to the publisher. They were very happy. And then I started another word I hate, pivoting. Then I started the whole pivoting thing. And it is very sad, but it is also very telling that I mentioned this second. I'm a woman of faith. I am a Christian, and my response is take it to the source and pray. And it's funny that I say that a second, because I started my walk with Christ later in my life. So Dad was the first all-knowing, all-powerful being in my life. And then I have a secret weapon. And it's just mine. And I wish I could share it with you, but I'm not going to. It is my best friend.
Okay.
She is my best friend, and I'm not going to name her because I value and respect her privacy. And she, for some reason, thinks I'm the sun and the moon. Mm. And I think the same of her. And when I need a hand out of the quagmire, I call my best friend. And her faith and belief in me lifts me out of the quagmire, even when I can't see it in myself.
Great.
So those are the first three things that I do.
Love it. Lauren, let's do the admin part of the show. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, URLs, books, promotions. You have a couple of amazing events coming up on the calendar. Share it with the listeners. We will put it in the show notes, but it gets way more engaged when they hear it from you.
Okay. Well, you can find me at my website, which is laurenschieffer.com. LAURENSCHIEFFER.com. You can always connect with me, Lauren, at laurenschieffer.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. On Facebook, look for Lauren Schieffer the Colonel's Daughter on Facebook. And I am on Twitter. And that is L Schieffer CSP is the Twitter handle. So that's all of and I'm on Instagram. So all of the old people, social media, I don't do TikTok. So I host a series of leadership intensives. It's called the Leaders Table. And the Leaders Table is a 3-hour leadership intensive wherein we cover the 9 essentials of significant leadership. And each participant, in addition to getting the 3 hours with the group, and I limit each group to 20. So in addition to the 3 hours with the group, each participant gets 30 minutes after the fact, one-on-one with me, to drill down implementation in their lives, their work, their situation. The next leaders table actually still does have seats available, and that is April 2nd, Saturday, April 2nd. They are always 9 to noon Central Time. And if you go to the website, laurenschieffer.com, under the drop-down menu programs, there is a page for the leaders table. Awesome. And you can find information there. So there's one on April 2nd, still does have seats available. There's also one on Saturday, June 11th. June 11th. Those are the two that are open at this point. I haven't scheduled the last two of the year.
Listeners, we will provide direct links in the show notes so you could find it there. Thank you, Lauren. This is awesome. Are you ready to go down Fun Street? Because I know we've been having fun the whole time. Fun Street. You love this. Okay. Share with the listeners what you shared with me is or was your all-time favorite movie.
Oh, is. That's got to be Apollo 13.
Why does
Produced and directed by Ron Howard.
Yeah. So why does that movie connect so much with you?
Because I'm old.
You're not old. Stop with the old thing.
Because I remember as a 9-year-old girl living through the Apollo 13 mission live. No one in my household, it seemed, moved or breathed during that 72 hours. And my father paced back and forth in front of the television set. And my mother cried and wailed about lives she believed were already lost. And she would say, we lost 3 on the launch pad and now we've lost 3 again. And my father would turn on her and he would say, no, we will bring them back. The best American minds are on this. We will bring them back.
Wow.
This happens every time. And when Jim Lovell's voice, see, having lived it, at that point in our aviation history, when the capsule wraps around the backside of the Earth, there is a expected break in a communication. It's supposed to be about 3 minutes. When that got to 4 minutes, and then 5 minutes and 2 seconds, we pretty much thought we'd lost the crew. And when Jim Lovell's voice cracked over the comm, hello, Houston, this is Odyssey. It's good to see you again. My father cried. It's the first time I'd ever seen my father cry. And he cried because of his renewed faith in the American spirit, in human initiative. And every single time that movie comes on, we can be flipping through channels on the television set, and we'll land on that and we don't go anywhere at all because it's that moment. Hello, Houston. This is Odyssey. It's good to see you again.
Wow. It is funny, these movies, and it is a credit to Ron Howard, by the way. There was the podcast, just give a shout out to Bill Simmons and his program, the Rewatchables. When that one came on, it was so well done because there is that thing. We knew what happened when this thing had aired. We knew that they came back, and yet you're on the edge of your seat in that same fear of what everybody must be going through. And for you to remember it, and obviously your dad to be as renewed in his faith with an unbelievable program. And I think what that showed, to your point about the brilliant minds were on this, what those men were doing to try to get through all these, just to really develop everything that they needed to simulate every possible thing, every wattage, all that stuff was just so well done. I recently went to Cape Canaveral and went to where they filmed a bunch of the scenes from that movie in the actual rooms that they used for it. It was incredible. It's pretty cool to watch.
So there's a museum in Hutchinson, Kansas, It's an aerospace because there's they call it the stratosphere. It's where astronauts have gone to train, and they do field trips there. And the museum is the Stratosphere Museum, and they have the Odyssey capsule there, and other artifacts. And we went there, during the 50th anniversary of Apollo 13. So that was 2020. Actually, it was in the summer of 2020 that we went with our masks on and everything. And the capsule is there. And it's behind glass, but I was like, oh.
No.
And in the film, Gene Kranz says, and it's a direct quote. When someone said, this is going to be the worst disaster in NASA history.
And he flips it.
And he said, I beg to differ.
Yeah.
This is going to be the finest hour.
We got the parachute situation, the heat shield, the angular trajectory, and the typhoon. There's just so many variables. I'm a little
I know
at a
what the
loss.
problems are, Henry. This could be the worst disaster NASA's ever experienced.
With all due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there was no better actor than Ed Harris to play that role, because I think we all still had him branded as the right stuff. So I think that there was a component of that connected with everybody who's a film lover, and was really well done. So kudos on that. That's the first time I think any of us have ever got emotional on this Fun Street part, but in a good way emotional, I guess, a happy bit. So thank you for that, Lauren. All right, we're going to do the speed round, Lauren, and this you're going to love. I'm going to ask you something. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that motivate you, make you feel good, lift you up. Basically, they make you thrive. And there are no wrong answers. So you're going to nail it. You're going to A+ this one right from beginning to end. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. Of late, a song that you love to hear, or maybe one that pumps you up.
Happy by Pharrell. I know it's old, but.
Oh, it's a good one. Favorite food that's not a dessert?
Sushi.
A favorite dessert?
Chocolate. Anything.
An activity you wish you did more of?
Exercise.
Her sheepish response is hysterical. An activity you wish you did less of?
Sitting at my desk.
If I could snap my fingers, Lauren Schieffer, and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Florence, Italy.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. Have you been?
Yes. My minor in college was Renaissance art history with a specialty in Michelangelo Buonarroti.
Oh, wow.
And I spent the summer after I graduated from high school touring Europe studying Michelangelo.
Wow. Nice. I love the food.
Food's pretty good too. Gelato is amazing.
Unbelievable. All of it is great. Oh man. Lauren Schieffer, the Colonel's daughter, thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud. Continue doing what you're doing, inspiring us. Significance over success. If I could ever take one key thing out of this thing, and I think everybody, if we thought more about the we than the me, it would be really powerful. Thank you for sharing that today here on Thrive Loud.
Thank you for having me. This has been delightful. Such fun.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.